Hi, this is Carolyn, and I'm here with Aaron. And this is part 2 of our episode with Kelly and Helen, who are the co founders of Will Serve NC. If you'd like to hear more about their incredible stories creating Will Serve NC, please go back to part 1. But here is part 2.
Okay, I have a funny question for you because I know Carolyn wants to ask it, but how are the line calls? Do you fight over line calls just like everybody does?
All right, I'm just going to say I've played on a lot of ladies' teams over the years, a lot. And the line calls for wheelchair tennis athletes are the best that I've ever experienced. In fact, I think every ladies' league player should have to go to a wheel serve clinic to get some perspective. You know, at the end of the day, maybe there's one or two exceptions of players in North Carolina who are outstanding wheelchair players. We actually, we have a couple who have made it to really elite levels. But at the end of the day, we're all just average tennis players, and none of us have a shoe deal or, a Nike contract yet. But these athletes will give you a perspective that you never knew was possible. And I think we lose that in able-bodied tennis a lot, particularly with women's tennis. Life's too short. If I don't want to have to drive home from my match and worry about, if I lost, is my partner going to be upset with me? Or is someone going to, think that wasn't, the score that we should have had? I mean, again, it's just a game. We love the game. We're so fortunate, all of us, to be able to play this sport. And so for some reason, I know the reason, I feel that the wheelchair athletes have a second lease on life. Mm-hmm. And their perspective is so different. And that's one of the reasons I love how we integrate our able-bodied community into wheelchair tennis, because it truly enlightens people. And one of my favorite things about events that we do is that you have new able-bodied players who come to participate or to watch, and they have no idea what they're getting into. They're a little apprehensive. And by the end of the day, they can't say enough good things about the experience they had. And I think that just kind of sums up, the perspective of our players. And it's because of these wheelchair athletes that people leave with that impression. And I hope that when they leave, that the next time they go back on the court with their ladies team, that maybe that's in the front of their mind about how fortunate we all are to be able to play together and just to be positive and enjoy it for what it is. When you start winning Grand Slams, then you can talk to me about, how you're upset over this or that. But until we get to that point, I think you just enjoy it for the sport that it is and for what it's given all of us.
So I know we're in North Carolina, Will Serve NC, right? Will Serve NC. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of listeners across the country. And I'm wondering, are people getting in touch with you from other parts of the country, to maybe tell them about the program and sort of use you as a footprint to get programs going for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think traditionally, when you thought about wheelchair tennis, you thought about the elite athlete who was going to go to the Grand Slams or play in the Paralympics. And we all love those stories. But as we've evolved, we've realized that we're trying to make this very comparable to the average player in a USTA league who plays able-bodied tennis. We have worked with some of the people in South Carolina to help them start a grassroots, sort of a recreational level program. And that's what we are, is we're a recreational program. If we happen to have a player who wants to, take it further than that, we will support them. But for the most part, we're just recreational players. We would love for our model to be able to be shared and used, because I do think that the growth of wheelchair tennis is going to happen at this level and not so much at the elite level. I think it's hard to go out and, be looking for that one athlete who's going to, take it all the way to Wimbledon. I mean, those people exist and that's great. But as far as growth in the sport, I think we have found a model that really works. It's sustainable. You have to meet every week because we're a community. So no one wants to play wheelchair tennis 4 times a year. If you love the sport, you're looking for more opportunities. So we have not gone beyond our state boundaries. Kelly and I are running this with the help of a lot of really good volunteers around the state. We're all volunteer run, but I do think that our model of programming is one that should be shared, and we look forward to hopefully being able to help people replicate that.
2019 is when we created We'll Serve NC, and we had these grand expectations of creating 4 programs in 1 year. I know that was our initial goal, and that sounded really doable. And then we got in the weeds with it, and we're like, wow, this is harder to do, and you have to have all the right pieces to build a program. You have to have, obviously, the wheelchair player components, recruit for players. You have to have really great volunteers. You have to have that tennis community. And then you have to have access to partners in the community. So CTAs, nonprofits, universities, parks and rec. And so, and then you have to have one person that wants to take leadership of all of that. And again, this is all volunteer based. And so our programs have been purposely chosen. The sites have been chosen where all of those factors combine, and it makes magic. And I think what's great is we have 6 programs strategically located, and we started with Charlotte was always the original, and then it grew to Cary, but then very slowly but confidently we went into other markets, and I think, our numbers have grown with that. As Helen mentioned, we started with, a handful of players, and then now we're over 70 players, 6 programs, owning, 15, 16 sport chairs. A sport chair is over $4,000. That is a huge barrier for us. And the thing that we spend the most money on as a nonprofit is outsourcing programs with chairs. So, to start a program, you need at least 4 chairs. And so those are some of our thinking as we go into where can the next program be. And, it's also as a population, people with disabilities, especially people with spinal cord injury or MS, we're in the community working, we're living, we're married, we're not shut in, but it's hard to coax us out. And I think, there's a misconception that you're going to have 30 people show up on day one, and that's not going to happen. So a victory is if you have 3 players or 4 players, because a life is changed no matter how many people are on the court. And I think I think for everybody, whether you're able-bodied or not, I mean, it's all about redefining your life and redefining success and redefining happiness. And that's what these programs do. They give people purpose. They give them accountability. If you have that weekly or bi-monthly clinic date, that gives you something to put on the calendar. And believe me, I started very small. I had a friend come once a week for lunch, and that was my entry back into community. So just having that one date of that tennis date, I'm telling you, it will be life-saving, not life-changing, life-saving. And so that's what these programs do. And so we're thrilled to see North Carolina lead the way, and at least USTA Southern for wheelchair tennis. And we're so grateful to USTA North Carolina and the North Carolina Tennis Foundation for their constant support and belief in us.
So since you're out on the court at least once a week, if not more, I'm sure you have a good, crazy story for us. Everybody, our listeners love either a good or a crazy story. So what you got?
So I have a crazy story with a good ending, but I was visiting our We'll Serve Wilmington program, which plays every Friday in Wilmington. And we have a great program coordinator down there, Candy Pegram, who many of your listeners, I'm sure, know Candy. But she has a ball on the court with these players, and she just is fantastic. We're just so fortunate, to have her leading that program down there. But I happened to be there one day as a volunteer, and we were having a lot of fun on the court. We were doing some fun games. She has a game that she calls Candyland that kind of brings everybody on the court together, regardless if it's their first day or they've been playing for 10 years. So we were having a ball. And there was a ladies' match going on 3 courts over. Not next to us, but 3 courts over. And all of a sudden, this woman walks over. There were 2 empty courts in between us. And she has her hands on her hips, and she said, "You all are being entirely too loud on this court. You've got to stop. We're playing a match." And we just were shocked, and we really weren't being that loud. It was at a park. We were on one court, and I kind of chuckled to myself because I looked over, and I'm pretty sure it was a 2-5 match. I mean, again, there were no big trophies that were going to be given out at the end of this match, but evidently it was very serious. So she came over and just kind of read us the riot act, and then she marched back to her court. And Candy and I both looked at each other and said, "That was really weird. I don't know what made her do that." So we're still playing, and about a half an hour later, the ladies finished their match, and one of the women walked over to us, and she had been the partner of the woman who came over and told us we were being entirely too loud. Mind you, there's a court of about 6 wheelchair players and maybe 4 volunteers. And this woman walks towards us, and we didn't know, is she going to give us some business too? But we look over, and she's got tears in her eyes. And everybody from her court had gone home. They had gotten in their cars and driven away. And she said, I just want to tell you, I am mortified. I don't know what possessed her to do that. I don't know if she's having a really bad day. We told her not to do that, but she came over anyway. And I just wanted you to know that was not what the rest of us felt on that court, and I'm very sorry. So she starts chatting with the wheelchair players, and they were asking her questions about her match, and they were very interested in her and thanked her for coming over. And then one of the wheelchair players invited her to come next week to play wheelchair tennis. Well, that was about 3 years ago, and she's one of our best volunteers there. She comes every Friday. She's a tremendous supporter on and off the court. And, so out of those situations, good things happen. It just kind of goes to show, again, back to the ladies' tennis issue, people bring different things on the court with them. But when you're on the court with the wheelchair athletes, it's just a whole new day. It's a whole new perspective. And I'm just so glad that we have an integrated program where we, play able-bodied and wheelchair athletes. And like Kelly said, there's really no difference between the two.
Can you also tell us your most memorable moments on the court? Helen, will you start?
I would say it would be hard for me to come up with one defining memorable moment, but I feel like my experience over the last 14, 15 years in, playing tennis with wheelchair athletes just has made up so many memorable moments that have really given my life purpose and perspective and gratitude, really, for these friendships and understanding and just being able to share, things we have in common and share the love of the game. I think that's, for me, the biggest takeaway is I didn't ever consider myself, not having a good attitude on the court, but through my work with Wheel Serve and getting to meet all these athletes, I think it's just changed my perspective entirely for the better. And I would highly recommend it to anyone who wants to come out and gain a little bit of a new perspective and share their love of the game.
And Kelly, can you tell us your most memorable moment?
Of all my years, the most memorable moment for me was that first day, because I came just so hesitant and afraid, and I left so hopeful. And so it was that day that those players came up to me, the volunteers came up to me, and I just saw a whole new community and a way to live and a purpose to life. And I now drive, I work. I live a very productive and full life, but it's because of those players. They were my mentors. They showed me what hand controls looked like. They showed me how you could still go to work and be in relationships. And so being on that court and seeing myself, what I thought was so disabled, and then seeing my body move in a way that I did not know was possible, even though that racket was taped to my hand. I am still an athlete, and I thought I had lost that, and I thought that was gone for me. And so I don't think there can be a moment that will be more precious to me than that moment, that first moment on court, because it has changed the direction of my life and given me my friends and my purpose.
We really appreciate Kelly and Helen coming on the podcast. If you'd like to donate or volunteer with Will Serve NC, we've included a link to their website in our show notes. Also, Aaron and I recently went to Western Wake Tennis Association's Polar Doubles Up-Down tournament, and watching these athletes in action was incredible. We hope you check out our website, which is secondservepodcast.com. Thanks so much for listening, and hope to see you on the court soon.